Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And Nintendo finally did it. Of course, over the last couple days, there's been a lot of rumors and speculation that a Nintendo Direct, a full-fledged Nintendo Direct, will be taking place this very week. And, well, that's exactly what's happening. So we're going to be talking about that today and what could possibly be at this Nintendo Direct. I do think that there's some little leaflets out there that could lead us to some, we'll call them educated guesses as to what could very possibly be here. So we're going to go over all of that today. Now also, PlayStation has been criticized quite a bit this year for almost seemingly just kind of ignoring their fans. They've been making some weird decisions, but they have been showing some signs here recently that they are indeed listening. And well, now they fixed a big problem with the PlayStation 4. So we're going to go over all of that as well. To start things off though, we will actually be talking about a PlayStation game being Puzzle Bobble 3D Vacation Odyssey. Now this game did release for the Oculus Quest earlier this year as a VR title. But now on October 5th, it will also be heading over to PlayStation as well. And interestingly enough, this will not just be a PlayStation VR title. This will also be playable as a standard game on both the PlayStation 4 as well as the PlayStation 5. In fact, it actually is a cross-buy title, so whether you buy this on a PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, it will grant you both versions. So, just kind of keep that in mind. This is something that I think that all of these cross-generation games should include right out of the gate. So it is nice to see Puzzle Bobble here include that option. Like I said a moment ago though, I do find it interesting that this is not an exclusive PlayStation VR game because it was developed in mind with virtual reality. But this is a rumor that we've heard a little while ago, but it was rumored that this generation with PlayStation VR 2, that PlayStation would actually be focusing on games that can be played on both VR as well as standard. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but I mean, we could very well possibly see more games like this come out in the future where it does support both PlayStation VR as well as a standard version. Nonetheless, it is pretty cool to see a new Puzzle Bobble game like this, though. I mean, I played a Puzzle Bobble game a long time ago on the Nintendo 64 when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and it's still around all these years later, and that's because these are good overall fun puzzle games. Next up though, unfortunately, I do have to be the bearer of bad news, especially for you TitanFall fans out there. Yeah, you probably already know where this is going, but during a YouTube live stream, Respawn Entertainment's community coordinator, Jason Garza, was asked about Titanfall 3, and this is what he had to say. I've said this before, we don't have anything in the works. There is nothing there. We've got too many other games in the works right now. So yeah, I don't think that he can really be too much more straightforward with this one. It does unfortunately sound like Titanfall 3 is not in development, at least as of this moment. Now, of course, we've talked about on this channel before, they do have multiple games in development. They are continuing work on Apex Legends, of course. You also have a new IP in development. And there's also some rumors, though this one hasn't been flat out confirmed yet, but there are some rumors that a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sequel is also in development. So yeah, they are pretty busy right now based off of that information. Now, in the past, I was pretty hopeful that maybe they have another team working on Titanfall and that this new IP might just be a little bit smaller, but, well, that actually does not appear to be the case after all. It just doesn't look like Titanfall 3 is in development, period. And that is very unfortunate because, Titanfall 2 especially was just such a good game, not just with its multiplayer like the first game, but it also surprisingly had a really good single-player component as well. I think that was the most surprising part, but that's something about Respawn Entertainment. They're just a very talented studio, and it seems like almost everything that they've worked on, it turns out to be really good. So, while on one side of things, yeah, I think this is disappointing, especially for Titanfall fans out there, but at the same time, I think that there are some positives to take away from this, because they are working on that new IP. So I'm always going to root for creative freedom, and if they have a project in mind here with this new IP, I mean, it could be yet another game that just absolutely blows us away. So, I mean, we don't really know. That's the beauty of a new IP like this, and I do trust Respawn Entertainment to make yet another good game. And for that matter, again, it does sound like that they're also working on a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sequel, which the first game was really good, so, you know, I would expect more of that with a sequel if that indeed is true. Next up, let's talk about that Nintendo Direct, because yes, they finally did it. There will be a September Direct after all, and it will debut tomorrow on September 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, because typically these Nintendo Directs, they take place right around 9 a.m. Eastern Time, but here it's much later in the day, being 6 p.m. So a little bit different there, and you know, personally, I wish it was earlier in the morning because it makes it a lot easier for me to talk about it, but you know, nonetheless, that's just me nitpicking. What we do know about this showcase, though, is that it's going to be a big, full-fledged Nintendo Direct, roughly taking 40 minutes, and it'll mainly be focusing on Nintendo Switch games that will be launching this winter. So I think with that information right there, you can pretty much lock in a few different games here. Metroid Dread and Mario Party Superstars, these are your two big holiday releases for Nintendo that we know of as of this moment. Metroid Dread will be launching next month on October 8th, and it seems like Nintendo is really pushing hard for this game, as they should be. It looks excellent, and I do expect this to be the best-selling Metroid game ever. I really do believe that's going to be the case, because we've seen this happen time and time again with Nintendo Switch games. It's that Switch effect. Games just sell really well on the Nintendo Switch, and truthfully, I don't ever remember a time where Metroid has got this much attention from the community. So I do expect that we will hear about that tomorrow and probably see some gameplay and, you know, just kind of what to expect and what we're going to be doing in Metroid Dread. And then obviously we're probably going to hear about Mario Party Superstars, Super Mario Party that released on the Nintendo Switch earlier this generation. I don't even think that's one of the better Mario Party games. I mean, I think it's good and everything, but it's mainly focused on motion controls. And I mean, that game sold well above 10 million units. It's been very successful for Nintendo, and then later on they added multiplayer, because truthfully, I don't think that they expected that game to be as successful as what it was. So yeah, they're definitely going to be pushing Mario Party Superstars, and probably hear a lot about that one. Advance Wars releases later this year. I believe that's December. And now this is a smaller release, but you know, it's still one of their first-party titles, and I do expect them to talk about that one as well. They also have Brain Age. I don't know if that one will show up here or not, but I think that that has a good possibility of being here as well. You also have the Pokemon games that might possibly show up here, but beyond that, I mean, that's just 4 to 5 games right there. That's kind of where the speculation kind of starts. What else could be revealed at this 40-minute long event? And I think that there's quite a few games that we know about that could possibly show up here. And I'm going to just kind of go over this, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different announcements that could possibly, potentially show up at this event. And the first of which is a rumor that has just kind of exploded in the last month, and that would be the expansion of Nintendo Switch Online. Now, as of this moment, we can play old Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games on Nintendo Switch Online, but reportedly, they will be adding Game Boy and Game Boy Color games to Nintendo Switch Online. And now there's also a rumor that seems to be growing rapidly by this point that Nintendo 64 games might also be included here. Now, this was rumored as early as this month, but here recently there was this new controller patent that popped up online that seems to be linked to some kind of Nintendo Switch Online controller. Of course, we got the wireless Super Nintendo controller in the past, and it seems like it could be the next iteration of that. And that begs the question, what controller could it possibly be? Game Boy and Game Boy Color doesn't really need a controller, so what's the next logical conclusion here? And that would be Nintendo 64. Now, that would be absolutely huge, but what makes this rumor even more interesting is that a new FCC filing just popped up that shows that it will be ending on September 24th, which was previously set to be March 2022. And that means Nintendo specifically changed this for it to be announced before the 24th. So there's a very real and likely chance that a new controller will be announced at this event that may or may not be linked to Nintendo Switch Online. Right now, the speculation is that it might be Nintendo 64, but, you know, we only have to wait a day, so we'll kind of wait and see on all of that. Now, as for games, I think that there's quite a few here that has a very real possibility of showing up, and the first of which would be Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. We still haven't seen much on that game yet. They did kind of show a little bit on it earlier this year, but fans are still eager to see more on that game. And if this one is set to release in 2022, especially if it's early 2022, which is still debatable by this point, but if it is, we could possibly see some more footage on Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Obviously, this is a huge game, so anytime they show that, that's automatically going to get fans like super excited. A few other games, though, would be Splatoon 3. This is set for an early 2022 release, and we haven't seen too much on that game yet either, so I think that there's a real possibility of seeing Splatoon 3 here. Bayonetta 3, that's a game that just seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. Who knows what happened with that one, but Platinum Games has reiterated time and time again they do want to show more on that game. So, I mean, could it be possible that we see Bayonetta 3 finally at this event? I mean, maybe, but that's not quite everything, though. There's two other games here that has yet to be officially announced that reportedly has been in development for a little while now, one being Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There was a big report that surfaced about a month or so ago that Xenoblade 3 has been in development for quite a while, and it's actually close to finishing. In fact, it was originally set to possibly release by the end of 2021, though it may have been pushed back to 2022. Nonetheless, if it really is that far in development, we could see an official reveal sometime here soon, and with this being a big, full-fledged Nintendo Direct, that reveal might actually happen as early as tomorrow. And while Xenoblade doesn't necessarily sell as many units as, let's say, your Mario franchise, your Pokemon games, or whatever, these are still beloved games, and a lot of fans consider these to be among the better JRPG style of games. So a Xenoblade 3 announcement would bring a lot of hype online. Another game here, though, that I think could possibly be revealed is another one that's been reported on quite a bit. Seems like a lot of sources have seemingly confirmed that this is an actual thing, though, again, we haven't gotten that official announcement from Nintendo yet, would be a new Donkey Kong game developed by the Super Mario Odyssey studio. Now, in the past, Donkey Kong has been handled by Retro Studio, though they're currently working on Metroid Prime 4, so they don't really have the time to work on that, but it looks like the Mario Odyssey studio might actually be working on a new Donkey Kong game. And interestingly enough, it is Donkey Kong's 40th anniversary right now. So I'm curious to see how far along this game is and whether or not they can actually release this by the end of Donkey Kong's 40th anniversary. That would be pretty cool, though there are some conflicting reports on exactly what this game is. It does seem like most people are saying this is going to be a 2D Donkey Kong game rather than 3D. I still do find that to be a little disappointing, just considering we haven't seen a 3D Donkey Kong in such a long time. But at the same time, I've always really loved 2D Donkey Kong games. In fact, as a kid, my favorite games was Donkey Kong Country, the original trilogy. So as long as it's good, at the end of the day, I'm going to be happy about it. But yeah, I think that all of those games, alongside the Game Boy and Game Boy Color announcement, even with maybe possibly Nintendo 64, could all potentially be announced at this Nintendo Direct. Now, I'm not guaranteeing any of this. This is all just my own predictions, but based off of all the information that we've had and all of the different rumors that's, from credible sources that's been floating around, I think that we could see some of this, maybe not all of it, but some of this pop up at that Nintendo Direct. Regardless, we're only going to have to wait a day, and then we will finally get to see that Nintendo Direct. And yeah, let me know in the comments below on what you would most like to see here at that event. Next up, let's go and talk about PlayStation as they are listening to their fans. This is something that they were heavily criticized for earlier this year, which we'll get back to here in just a moment. But yes, PlayStation did push out a firmware update for the PlayStation 4 being Update 9.0. And there's not really much mention on what this update exactly fixes, but now reportedly it's actually for that Cbomb issue. This is something that, again, Sony was heavily criticized for earlier this year. And okay, so basically what this refers to is that when your PlayStation 4 CMOS battery dies, which will inevitably happen the longer you have your PlayStation 4, but once that battery dies, you'll no longer be able to play your games offline. And that alone is already problematic, but where it gets even worse is that even if you replace your CMOS battery, that didn't necessarily fix the issue because you would still then have to sync up with Sony's servers. Now, let's just go ahead and hypothetically say that you turn on your PlayStation 4 20 years from now. We don't know whether or not PlayStation servers will even be there by that point. So if they hypothetically aren't there, that would essentially mean that your PlayStation 4 would then just be rendered useless. You would then no longer be able to play games on your PlayStation 4 because the CMOS battery died and you can't reconnect with their servers. So this is a big problem, especially for preservation purposes. Really, nothing about this entire situation was good at all, so that's why fans were heavily criticizing Sony for this as they learned more and more about this information, and they rightfully should have been criticized for that. But something that we have seen over the last year is that Sony actually is listening right now. They listened with that Horizon Forbidden West debacle. A lot of fans wasn't exactly a big fan of how that game was being released on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. They fixed that, and now luckily it looks like that they fixed the CMOS battery issue as well. According to Destruction Games, he said, "Tested on my PS4 with a dead battery and the games are no longer crashing on startup, and I can even earn trophies, although the trophies earn dates will be blank." So there you have it, and I think PlayStation 4 owners can kind of be a little bit more happy today that knowing that their PlayStation 4 will work in the future. On to the poll of the day, though. We talked about this yesterday, but Kena Bridge of Spirits reviews have started to roll out, and it's looking like it's a good game after all. For a little while there were some fans out there that was a little concerned on whether or not this game was going to be good or not, but yeah, the reviews do indicate that Kena Bridge of Spirits, in fact, is a good game after all. So I wanted to ask you all, now that reviews are out for Kena Bridge of Spirits, do you intend on picking it up? And, well, actually, it seems like most of you all are at least interested, with 48% of you saying yes or yes, but not right now. 15% of you said yes, 40% said no, while 33% said yes, but not right now. Now, it does seem like a lot of you all are voting yes, but not right now for several different reasons. It appears that some of you all are waiting for this game to release on other platforms. Some of you all are waiting for the Xbox version, it seems, while others are waiting for it to release on Steam, as right now it's exclusive on PC over at the Epic Game Store. So some of you all are waiting for that to happen, while others are waiting for a physical release. And, truthfully, and I think this is probably impacting quite a bit of people, you know what? This month in particular, September, has been very busy in the gaming world. I posted this over on Twitter earlier today, but, if you look at things, in a 14-day period, here's some of the games that's released. You have Deathloop, Tales of Arise, Eastward, Kena Bridge of Spirits, and then Lost Judgment. That is a lot of really high-quality games releasing in a very short period of time. So I don't blame any of you all at all for just kind of putting a game onto your backlog and just trying to get to it later, as you're just busy with all these other games that's releasing right now. Yeah, those backlogs are a very real thing, but I was really happy to see that most of you all are at least interested in Kena Bridge of Spirits. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.